Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be discussing the best or the ideal mileage to sell your car or to trade in your car. But before we get into any of that, if you're interested in a little bit of financial advice, car buying advice as well, and then information on newly released cars that I haven't had a chance to review yet, that's what this channel is going to be all about. So I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe if that's kind of what you're looking for content-wise. But with all that being said, let's just get straight into the video. Before we get into any of the information in today's video, obviously I've got to give you guys some statistics so that we can pull ourselves into reality. So the first stat I want to go over is the average duration that someone owns a car for right now is about 6 years. So if you're the average person, then you're most likely going to have a car for the next 6 years, aka 72 months if you're looking at it from a loan perspective. And the average vehicle age on the road right now is about 11 years old. So the average person keeps a car for 6 years and their car on average is about 11 years old. So this video being filmed in 2020 means that most people that are trading in their cars today got it back in 2014, and the car that they got back in 2014 that they're trading in today is a 2009. Now, aside from what the average person does, let's actually get into what is the ideal kind of like trade-in period or selling period for a vehicle. So the first thing I want to go over is actually vehicle depreciation, and this is very important in terms of determining when you should actually trade your car in or sell it. So first off, everyone knows that if you buy a brand new car, typically, unless it's like a special type car where it's really limited in production numbers, it's going to depreciate once you drive it off the lot for, again, most vehicles. Now, if you're wondering what are the exceptions, again, like specialty type vehicles. So a really good example is like any sort of 911 GT3 or pretty much anything from Porsche that has the GT badge on it is just going to be crazy with its values. I worked for Dodge, so a weird one with us was the Dodge Demon. That one just, I mean, still they're going for over 6 figures, which is crazy because the MSRP on those cars was about $89,000, $90,000 range, and so it's just kind of crazy how well they've held their value. So specialty cars. And then in terms of cars that just have lower depreciation rates in general, trucks and SUVs are going to have lower depreciation than sedans. Luxury cars are going to have the highest amount of depreciation. So if you want a car that has like the lowest amount of average depreciation that's not a specialty vehicle, it's going to be a truck with an off-road package that is not from a luxury manufacturer. With those three things, then that's gonna have the lowest depreciation. So like a really good example is a Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. That truck is gonna hold its value like crazy, but then you compare that to like, let's say a BMW 8 Series Coupe. That thing is going to depreciate like crazy. It's gonna lose more than half its value in a few years. So obviously, cars depreciate over time, but depending on the type of car that you get will determine the depreciation as well. Now, the general rule of thumb in terms of depreciation over time is the biggest amount of depreciation, well, it's pretty obvious. It's going to be within the first year of the car typically. Again, there's some exceptions. But within the first year, that's gonna be the biggest depreciation. And then the second and third year are still gonna be pretty heavy, not as big as the first year. And then once you hit the third year, things slow down to an extent. They don't slow down a massive amount, but they do slow down from years 4 to 7. And then after 7 years, a car's had a pretty big chunk of its depreciation gone. So if you get a car that's 7 years old, it's not gonna be 100% depreciated, but it's gonna be mostly depreciated. And if you're thinking about, hey, when should I sell my car? Well, understand that if your car is already 7 years old, then it's lost most of its value. And then once you get to like that 10-year mark, it's not 100% depreciated, but that's like so much that the amount of depreciation that happens each year is so little that you're still losing money, but almost not at the same time because of how slowly it depreciates after the 10-year mark. Now that we kind of know the general rules of depreciation, what does this mean for you if you are selling your car? So typically what this means is if you go and buy a brand new car, then selling it within the first 3 years is probably not going to be the best situation for you unless that car's held its value like crazy and you can quickly recoup your money. I've done that before with several new cars at this point. And so again, kind of refer back to what I said, like if the car has an off-road package, if it's a truck, and if it's from a non-luxury manufacturer, typically those ones are going to hold their value the best. A really good example with me is I had a Ram Rebel and I bought that truck. I paid about $43,000 for it after all discounts, and I sold it for about the same amount of money. So I didn't lose any money I drove a brand new truck. I had about 6,000 miles on it when I sold it. So you can do that if you sell pretty quick, but if you keep the car past the first year, then you might as well keep it for the next 3 years at least, if not 6 years, just from a selling standpoint. So that's kind of from the time standpoint. But if you're smarter than I am, then you'll actually go and buy a used car. And if you kind of heard those whole rules of depreciation, then instead of buying something that's brand new or even 3 years old or even 6 or 7 years old, then if you wanted a car that you're like, okay, I want something that's not going to depreciate at all, then go and buy a car that's about 10 years old and most of its depreciation would happen. And so at that point, when you go to sell it, you're really not going to lose a ton of money. But then refer to what I said in my previous video with, if you go and buy a car that's older, then be expected to have to pay more in maintenance and all that kind of stuff because, well, a car is a material item. It has wear and tear, and so stuff is going to break. So yes, you might lose less in depreciation, but you might be paying more in mechanical stuff. Now, a really important thing is to look at the warranty information on your vehicle. This is going to be another huge depreciation hit for a vehicle, is when the warranty runs out from the manufacturer. Now, warranties vary cars to car. So like most cars typically have a 3-year, 36,000 mile basic warranty that doesn't cover everything, but it covers most of the stuff on the vehicle. And so typically if you basically sell a car or trade a car in within that first 3-year period, the next person, typically the warranty transfers over to them. They can get anything covered if there is anything wrong with the car, but once that initial warranty ends, then the car does take a value hit, because if you sell it to someone else or if you trade it into a dealership and there's something wrong with the car, they won't be able to get that cost covered under warranty anymore. And so then they're gonna have to pay out a lot of money to whatever it is to fix it, right? And so then that actually does decrease the valuation of a car is when warranties end. So you need to be very familiar, especially if you're buying a used car, understand when the warranty went in effect with your car. If you're buying a new car, it's pretty straightforward. It's when you bought the car. But if you're buying a used car, it's when the first person bought the car. Find out when that warranty went into effect, find out the expiration date of the warranty, and then understand that if you get rid of your car before that warranty expires, you're gonna be able to get a little bit more value out of it, because the next person has at least the peace of mind that if they take it into a shop before that warranty expires, they can get everything sorted out and fixed before the warranty expires for them. And again, like I said, it varies. There's that basic warranty, and then cars also have a powertrain warranty, and this is where they'll take another hit. So typically most powertrain warranties here in the US are a 5-year, 60,000 mile. I know there's other manufacturers that'll do more, like Hyundai and Kia have like a 10-year, 100,000 mile on their powertrain. Again, this is why you research into the specific manufacturer with the car that you're purchasing. This hit isn't as big as the basic warranty hit. So like when the basic warranty ends, the cars take a bigger depreciation hit, but when the powertrain warranty ends, they do take another depreciation hit. So again, just know when that warranty ends and all the stuff that it covers with your specific manufacturer. So then if you sell it just before then the other person can get it sorted out and everything, and you'll just get a little bit more money for the car. Now, the next thing that you need to know about your car before you try to sell it, and I think you should know this before you even buy the car, is what are the major milestones in which, you know, crazy maintenance needs to be done on the car, or where something is just going to break on the car. This is very imperative that you know this, because this is also where massive depreciation is going to happen on your vehicle, whether you fix the problem or not. And I know that might seem crazy, because some people are like, well, even if there's this major maintenance to be done on the car and then I get it done, then well, the value should still be there. It's not that simple. So the problem lies with the auction system here in the US. So there's a ton of cars sold at auction, and a lot of cars sold through the auction system have deferred maintenance on them, and they actually bring down the value of cars that don't have deferred maintenance on it. So a car that doesn't have deferred maintenance will always be worth more. However, the overall book value, the overall resale value of the car still goes down because of these cars that have deferred maintenance. And so basically what it looks like is, let's say that you have a super clean car, you've kept it up, you've maintained it really well, everything's up to date, and you just did that major maintenancing. Well, chances are there was 10, 20, 30, however many cars. It's sometimes just hard to fathom how many cars are sold at auction just every single day, basically. So many more cars than yours were just sold at auction with the same amount of mileage or similar mileage, same year, and they didn't have that maintenancing done on them. So guess what? People obviously bid them at lower amounts, which overall lowers the value of your car when people are buying and selling your car for lower amounts. And so even if you do that maintenancing on your car, the values still drop because of that. So what you need to know is you need to know these major milestones, so then you can, one, be aware of it, so that just realistically, if you're going to keep your car past that milestone, that you can take care of the maintenance so nothing wrong happens with your car. But more importantly, sell the car before that major maintenancing needs to be done, so that you can get the higher value. Because once your car passes that milestone, even if you fix everything that needs to be fixed on the car, you're still going to take a massive depreciation hit, which if we're trying to get the most money for the value of our, if we're trying to get the most money for our car, that's just not going to happen. And the last thing that you need to research into is the mileage stones at which a car just depreciates. And a lot of the times this is completely outside of maintenancing. This is completely outside of warranty. It's just how it is. So like pretty much any car, once it hits 100,000 miles, takes a huge value hit. And there's nothing special about 100,000 miles, but it's just, I mean, most people, when they hear 100,000 miles, they go, wow, that's a ton of mileage. And so they just are less likely to actually end up purchasing that car. And also from like a loan perspective, it's harder to get a loan on a car that's over 100,000 miles. And since most people have to finance vehicles because they're so expensive nowadays, that's the other reason why they kind of take a value hit over 100,000 miles, because there's just less buyers for that car. But that's also something to take into consideration, is just look at the mileage milestones. Like another good example, I mean, not for like regular everyday people cars, but like supercars, it's crazy. Once you hit like 20,000 miles with a lot of these cars, they take a huge value hit. And then once you hit like 40,000 miles, they take another huge value hit. Whereas if you went and got a Ram 1500 or like a Jeep Wrangler or just like any normal car, at 20,000 miles, most people are like, that's basically brand new. And 40,000 miles still, that's not brand new, but it's just a little bit used. And so you just really need to research into the specific car that you're looking at buying, and you need to see what all of the mileage milestones are. Like I said in the last point, with the maintenance, you need to look at that, but you just need to look at the general depreciation mileage stones. And not only will that help you negotiate if you do choose to buy a higher mileage car, if you are buying a car, but with selling your car, you can sell it before that point. So like if you know, once I hit 100,000 miles, I'm going to take another depreciation hit, well, sell your car maybe at like 90,000 miles. I've seen it all the time where people come in and they trade in cars with like, when I worked at the dealership, with like 99,000 miles on it. So just look at all of those mileage milestones and know where those are at, so that you can make the decision, hey, I'm going to try to sell my car now so I can get a little bit more money for it, or I'm just going to keep it, weather the storm, and go to the next mileage milestone before I sell it. And that's kind of the last point that I want to make. Now, I just want to give my final points on today's subject. And I know a lot of you are probably like, well, can you answer the question already? What is the best mileage to sell a car at? And hopefully you got the point throughout the video, which it just really depends on the specific vehicle that you purchase. And obviously there's things outside of it that affect it as well. Like if you still have a loan on a car, that's also going to greatly impact whether or not it makes sense to sell a car. Because if you still owe a lot of money on a car and it's not worth as much as what you owe on the loan, then it just doesn't make sense, unless it's like there's certain situations where it does make sense. And again, that's a completely different topic, but you need to look at all of the outside stuff as well. But just looking from a mileage perspective, I think the best piece of advice that I could give you guys in terms of what mileage you should sell your car at, it's going to depend on what your needs are and how often you want to get a new car. Really what you should do is, before you buy a car, just research what the different mileage milestones are. So then you can just check yourself at each mileage milestone and go, okay, I just hit this mileage milestone. So like if, let's say you buy a new car, once you hit about, it really just varies, again, manufacturer to manufacturer, but like most cars, they could have up to like 6,000 or 7,000 miles on them and still be considered brand new at a dealership, believe it or not. It's kind of crazy how that stuff works. But once you hit about 6,000 or 7,000 miles on a car, you're gonna take a depreciation hit at that mileage amount. And then after that, right, like I said, with the basic warranty, and depending on the type of vehicle that it is, they also take other mileage hits. Like some cars, it's as low as 20,000 miles. Some cars, it's not till 50,000 miles. So just research into the car that you're purchasing and find out what the different mileage milestones are at. So then you can check yourself and go, hey, I'm about to hit that first 6,000 miles. Am I still enjoying this car, or should I sell it where I can still sell it for a little bit more money before I take this depreciation hit? Or, hey, the basic warranty is just about to end on my car because I'm almost at 36,000 10,000 miles. Do I still want this car or not, right? You should check yourself and don't just kind of like go, okay, I feel like I need a new car and then just jump into it. I think that looking at these mileage milestones is not only going to kind of help you appreciate your car a little bit more, because you're gonna be like, okay, well, I'm getting this value out of it for this duration. But what it's also going to do is it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run, because you know when the depreciation is going to come, and so you can kind of get out ahead while you still can, essentially. Now, that is going to sum things up for our video on the mileage milestones with vehicles and what's the best mileage to sell a car at. Now, before I kind of cap things off with today's video, I want you guys to comment in the comment section below if you have any video ideas or basically topics you want me to go over in videos, and obviously that'll greatly increase the chances of me making a video on that, or I'm just gonna kind of keep going along with the stuff that pops up into my head. But other than that, if you do happen to be stopping for the first time, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe. It's really gonna help kind of get things rolling with this channel. Once we can kind of get things really going with this channel, then I can make content on a more consistent basis. So if you like these types of videos, just subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next video.